Welcome to the analytical program Pro and Contra, coming out on the Moskva-Baku web portal with me, Sergei Strokin, observer with Kommersant Publishing House as its author and presenter. Today, we would like to focus on two overlapping events which are highlighting foreign policy as the agenda of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev paid a high-profile visit to Washington to take part in the Nuclear Security Summit attended by world leaders and policymakers from more than 50 states. As the leader of Azerbaijan flew to Washington to meet State Secretary Kerry, Vice President Biden and dined with President Obama, well-placed diplomatic sources confirmed that foreign ministers of Russia, Azerbaijan and Iran are going to hold a trilateral meeting next week, just days after President Aliyev is due to leave Washington. So, where is Azerbaijan heading with its rapidly expanding foreign policy agenda? Let us discuss it in more detail with our studio guest, well-known Russian political analyst, director of the Institute of Strategic Assessment, Sergei Osnobichev. So I'm very privileged to meet our guest in the studio today. Mr. Osnobichev, you are well versed in the questions of nuclear security, handled it for many years, if I'm not mistaken. As this week all eyes were focused on nuclear summit in Washington and President Aliyev taking part in it, discussing rapidly shaping and changing nuclear agenda. So how would you evaluate the importance of the summit?
Well, of course, the nuclear summits that were organized in 2010 by the initiative of American president, they are rather a notable and even remarkable event. This time it gathered about 50 participants, high-placed and presidents of a number of countries who have nuclear energy at their disposal or who are interested in this issue and thinking about producing nuclear energy at their territory. And this time it would be, of course, most accent would be made on the issue of the possibility or the vision of so-called catastrophic terrorism. If terrorists may acquire at their disposal the nuclear energy.
Absolutely. Just days before the summit, as you know, we had a Brussels attacks, and they were, as you were watching that, they were reports that terrorists were planning to stage attacks on Belgian atomic stations. So those are the hot button issues which show that the agenda of the summits are very relevant and topical. But at the same time, I hope you will agree that there's a sort of a skepticism towards that summits. Some are saying that these are just photo opportunities, not more than that. President Aliyev is taking part in the summits not for the first time. So he regularly taking place in participated in the summits. You said that the first summit was started 2010, meaning 6 years ago. So we had, after that, we had summit in Washington, we had summit in Seoul, we had summit in Hague, and finally we have wrapping up summit this week in Washington. So how important are those summits? You see, what would you say to critics who are saying that this is just sort of a get-together?
No, of course, they are important for their working out the common approaches, and they are looking at the best practices existing in the world with the aim to increase the security of nuclear power stations, of nuclear plants, to reduce the quantity of dangerous nuclear materials in the world, to raise the level of cooperation. And it is actually a paradox that in November last year, I wrote a big piece on the nuclear security issues, of the possibility of the terrorists to access the byproducts of these nuclear plants. And is only a couple of weeks ago, this all could happen already. So that means that we should pay double attention, perhaps triple attention to all these issues. And of course, for Azerbaijan, it is a new, I would say, a new chapter, perhaps, opening in its history.
New chapter, new challenge.
New challenge, new chapter, and the new, I would say, a new level of their presence on the international arena. For this presence already very active, very visible, but now the nuclear theme gives it a new dimension.
I see.
It is quite definite.
So you mentioned Azerbaijan. Obviously, we have to unwrap the riddle of Azerbaijan being its attitude towards nuclear powers. So you mentioned 50 states. Some are nuclear, some are threshold, some are non-nuclear. So let me ask a very straightforward question. Where is Azerbaijan in this global debate on whether to have or not to have nuclear facilities? And what are the pros and cons?
Well, right you are. For the debate is going on, whether to have or
To have or not to have, that is the
or
question.
not to have not. And especially these debates appear to be very keen after the catastrophe of Chernobyl atomic plant in 1986, the recent events and catastrophe at the Japan power station, and of course Japan, of
Tragedy
course,
of Fukushima.
Yes, tragedy of Fukushima. And this, of course, poses a number of challenges. And as far as Azerbaijan is concerned, they suppose have already made a very right choice. I mean, the potential constructor of the power station and the order of Ilham Aliyev, as I remember, was done in 2014 to start this process. Well, of course, the origin of this process were much
So for Azerbaijan, there's no question of to have or not to have. They have already made a decision.
For the time being, it is a decided issue.
Decided.
And the principal contractor, it is a well-known French company, Vinci, which has done more than a little bit less than 50 projects, 47 or 48 projects worldwide. A very well done and very secure atomic power stations. But of course, it is especially tightly connected with the terrorism issue, and of course, speaking about the best practices which the states exchange at the summits, like the present one, American one, the issue of raising the security as far as the possible terrorist is viewed upon is very acute.
Okay, but let us look in more detail what can be practical value of Azerbaijan just to have this nuclear energy. Specifically, do you think that this is mostly dominated by the very idea of diversifying sources of energy, because we know that the hydrocarbons, all the problems related to them, the prices are just very vulnerable. The other issue is, of course, international prestige and leverage. So what are the key factors? Azerbaijan want to have more say in international relations, or Azerbaijan simply want to have alternative sources of energy, or both? What's your take on that?
Well, when such level of important decisions are taken, yes, national level, of course there is a number of considerations. And it is difficult to say what was the principle.
So it's a mix.
But I suppose that every time the leader of the country makes this, is thinking about the so-called energy security. We suppose that sometime in the future, perhaps later or earlier, the supplies of the gas and oil will be coming to an end or becoming lower. So we have to transit the energy flow to some other source. And of course, the nuclear energy gives this source. And of course, there is a consideration of status. The nuclear power gives a new status for every
to the
country.
state,
Yes,
actually.
it is a kind of welcome on board of the not very big community of states who are
Privileged. You're a member of a privileged club. So obviously you are upgrading your geopolitical status. You mean to say that, yeah. And by the way, if you look just at the map of the post-Soviet Union and see whatever newly developed states are acquiring nuclear atomic stations, mostly they're those which are left from the Soviet Union.
Yes.
And if you look at the Caucasus, so not a single state was able, just neither Georgia nor Armenia was able to build a new atomic station.
Yes.
Georgians don't have them at all, and Armenians are having just an old
From
station.
Soviet time.
So Azerbaijan would be first to have this station.
Yes, and there is this is of course gives a new vision for the world, or pretends to give this vision that we are able to do this. We are striving to be among the leaders today, and this is very important. This is a very important message to the world community.
Mr. Znobyshev, also the talk of the day was, apart from the agenda of nuclear summit, was meeting of President Aliyev with State Secretary Kerry. As you know, they had quite extensive discussion, and the questions which they were discussing, they went far beyond the agenda of nuclear summit. Specifically, they were discussing energy security in Europe. They were discussing Nagorno-Karabakh issue. So, as I see, this meeting also added to the ongoing American-Azeri dialogue, which is on fast track.
Yes, this of course, we may see that the nuclear summit and this a new step that is given to Azerbaijan by its entering the nuclear age, so to say. Yes, it gives it immediately or almost immediately brings some political fruits, and this level of dialogue with the United States and level of dialogue with the leaders, with other leaders of the world, and the level of discussions in the United States, of course, are very high. And again, they were speaking about the energy issues, and they were touching the issue of the southern gas corridor.
You took it from my mouth, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Let me quote what State Secretary Kerry said on southern gas corridor. That's a quote. I believe President Aliyev, by his leadership in Southern Gas Corridor project, has made a very serious effort to meet some of those needs. This is a very serious step in the name of long-term strategic interests of Europe, and frankly speaking, in attempts to diversify sources of energy, that is very important. Of course, we would also have other interests, for example, fight against terrorism. We want to see that the Nagorno-Karabakh problem, which is a frozen conflict, will finally find its solution. Negotiations should be conducted to resolve this conflict. This is what State Secretary Kerry said talking to President Aliyev. So you see the question of energy security and southern gas corridor is on the top of the agenda, and we are just moving from nuclear security, energy issue to the security of hydrocarbons.
Yes, of course, and of course these issues are interconnected, and I would say in broader terms, you know, the stability of developing good neighborly relations, partnership relations, which is connected with this future southern gas corridor. The Azerbaijan activity in this issue. This opens a new possibility for the stable political relations, which already exist. But you understand that under present conditions, due to the Ukrainian crisis, this vision of energetic instability is kind of always covering, or year after year, this threat is covering, so to say, the European states. And so bringing the new element of stability due to the efforts of Azerbaijan, that will be a very important political issue for the relations with the European states.
Absolutely, and I have another quote that this is what President Aliyev said addressing Secretary Kerry. This is how he evaluates the project of Southern Gas Corridor. Here is what President Aliyev said. Now we are working together over project Southern Gas Corridor. We are very grateful to the government of the United States of America for major support of this project. To be honest, without this support, this project, it would have required more time and effort. Works are on schedule. They will be fulfilled on time, and within 2-3 years, project Southern Gas Corridor will work. So the time is running fast. You see, 2-3 years. That's all. Yeah. And Azerbaijan is stepping into this Premier League.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but what are the pros and cons? If we speak about Russian factor, you know that Europe smells a rat in Russia's, you know, just sort of trying to, how they're accusing Russia of trying to use this, what they call it, gas as a political tool. Is there any problem here or risk here?
We in Russia are speaking about Ukrainian factor,
Yeah.
meaning that Ukrainians demonstrated
So this
their
has nothing to do with Azerbaijan.
Instability, political instability, and instability as an energy partner. And of course, and I was several times, I was in Europe in winter, when I was told, you know, our batteries are rather cool.
It is a good time to understand that. It is
chilling
well,
in
yeah.
the hotel,
Yeah.
but in the hotel, but you may go to the bar and have an extra drink there. So this was
to warm up yourself with a
yes.
drink.
For me, this was not a very bad outcome, but still, I understood. This was in the center of Europe, and I was amazed how vulnerable we are. And from this point of view, I of course do not hesitate to go to the bar once more, but I would prefer that we will be a reliable partners, including Azerbaijan and Russia, perhaps Ukraine will be, and we'll have stable relations on a very good and healthy level.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Mr. Aznobishev, obviously, while one of the top issues, energy security, was not the sole issue which was discussed by President Aliyev, State Secretary Kerry, and then Vice President Biden, but also they couldn't have afforded themselves to bypass and ignore the question of Nagorno-Karabakh. That still remains a powder keg, and I just want to recall what President Aliyev said when he was making his press statement. Specifically, he noted that the conflict must be resolved based on the United Nations Security Council resolutions, which demand immediate and unconditional withdrawal of Armenian troops from Azerbaijani territory. So we know that the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which must be resolved, based on territorial integrity of the countries. So this position was reinstated by President Aliyev. But from your point of view, why, with such an efforts made for years and years, this Minsk process, such a miserable result, not a single inch of the solution?
Well, I do remember the high-level politicians which were nominated in Gorbachev time to resolve this issue, unfortunately in vain. We have now the Minsk group working. Of course, the position of United States is very important, but United States are the co-chairman of this Minsk group, and I would say that
there was a lot of criticism of this Minsk
but
group.
I would say that these important issues, and Nagorno-Karabakh is an important regional one, but in the world there is a number of such unresolved issues, conflict situations. That would be there is little hope to resolve them if there would not be a very effective Russian-US cooperation.
Yeah.
And I see that due to the present Ukrainian crisis, it is, I call it in Russian, the system of international relations is развинчивается, unscrewing or unveiling. What is the
dismantling? You must say dismantling.
Dismantling.
Yeah. The good word for развинчивание.
It is dismantling. For only if we insistently participate in the solution of this issue of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is very close to our borders. Only in this case, using the possibilities of our special relations with the capitals will be able to solve this issue.
Mr. Znobyshev, while obviously all eyes, as I said, were focused on nuclear summit in Washington this week, we also had an important leak, what I said when we started the project, when they were diplomatic sources both in Moscow and in Baku saying that we are just coming closer to trilateral meeting of foreign ministers of Azerbaijan, Russia, and Iran. It comes on the heels of President Aliyev's visit to Washington. So it shows that Baku is playing chess, geopolitical chess, you see, on several boards, not on one board. So how important would be this coming visit, coming trilateral meeting of three leaders, which would also discuss a lot of hot button issues, including that corridor?
Well, of course, it will be important. And
can you please explain? And what are the pros and cons?
Well, I know that the pro, of course, is the factor of very good, even friendly relations between Minister Lavrov and Aliyev. They graduated from the same Institute of International Relations. And so they keep close contact.
But equally, they have good relations with Foreign Minister Mamedyarov. So,
of course, it is.
There's a lot of personal chemistry in that.
Yes. In present relations, there is. And this future meeting would be an important step on the way of Azerbaijan having more reliable ties and more I would say weight.
So you mean to say that the more pillars foreign policy has, the more reliable and solid is construction of the foreign policy.
And especially now that Iran is starting to play a role of kind of stabilizer.
Oh yes, that's a rediscovery of Iran and the possibilities which are given by Iran.
Quite a new role, and this role is taken by Washington, by Moscow too, and so this trilateral dialogue from this point of view would be very important too.
Mr. Znobyshev, as we are running out of time, but I would love just to speak to you with more detail on each question. So just to wrap it up, so let me ask you about the importance of those three lateral meetings, because here we have Azerbaijan, Russia, Iran, troika. Then Azerbaijan already enjoys inter-regional cooperation with such trilateral relations between Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, troika, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Turkey, troika, and again Azerbaijan, Iran, Turkey. So all troikas. Why? What is the magic?
Well, I do want to return to the Soviet past when these troikas were Russian troika. Yes, but well, it is rather effective way of well, it is not too big company, yes,
yeah,
and not small. But bilateral context, this is good, but we are at least we are trying to solve the regional issues, and the world is much more interconnected, much more globalized than before.
Yeah.
So of course, I stand for these meetings as troikas. If there will be a meeting by fives tomorrow, it's not bad. But you know, if the you know that there are very big gatherings, sometimes it is very difficult to solve practical issues. So troika perhaps is one of the optimal form of gathering.
And let me add to that. I just thought about that in pre-petrol engine era, troika or three horses was a very powerful instrument which can just make you to move in space. So that's why probably troika, this is something which would bring the foreign policy of our countries on a fast track moving.
Yes, troika was everything, always the symbol of fast move.
So let us hope that the movement of foreign policy of Azerbaijan would not lose its steam. It would be on fast track, and we'll see how the events are overlapping in the foreign policy agenda. Well, that was a very lively debate, and I want to thank our very special guest in our studio, Sergei Oznobishev, who tried to unwrap with us the riddle of those overlapping issues of nuclear energy, security energy, and other questions. And that was an analytical program, Pro and Contra, coming out on the Moscow-Baku web portal with me, Sergei Strokan, observer with Kommersant Publishing House, as its author and presenter. I hope you enjoyed our discussion, and we'll be back to you very soon. Thank you for staying with us. Goodbye and take care.